theft consultant. You can find me at a Gmail address, and that Gmail address is retailtheftexpert@gmail.com. That's retailtheftexpert@gmail.com. If you have any questions or concerns or comments, you can direct them there or direct them directly to this YouTube channel. Today, we're going to talk about something I get asked quite often, whether it be online or in person or via email or text message or something else. People always ask me, what can loss prevention do? And by what can they do, that they're referring to, can they touch me? Can they ask certain questions? Can they search my bags? Can they do any of that? And there's not a real simple answer. But I'm going to do my best to answer that for you. Again, if you have any questions or concerns, you're free to email me, and I will do what I can to answer your questions. First and foremost, what loss prevention can do and not do is not so much dictated by law as it's dictated by the store. Certain stores have certain policies. Some stores have a policy where they don't even stop shoplifters, as scary as that may sound. That's right, there are certain stores that do not permit their loss prevention personnel, whatever they go by, to not apprehend shoplifters. They can customer service them, ask them if they can help them or anything, but they cannot stop them, accuse them, or anything else. Other stores have what they refer to as a do not touch policy, meaning they cannot put their hands on you, they cannot basically not put their hands on you. Usually those same stores have a pursuit policy that is forbidden as well. Now, some stores will allow a loss prevention officer, asset protection, store protection specialist, or whatever title they give them. They will allow them to use physical contact, whether it's just to touch somebody or something else, but not allow them to pursue. Now, a pursuit is when the loss prevention officer actually pursues you outside the store, maybe through the parking lot, maybe through the mall, or something like that. Some stores permit that. Some stores permit touching and not pursuit. It varies. I'm not suggesting you start seeking out what these stores are in order to find out which ones you can shoplift from, because obviously that's against the law. And technically, if a store breaks one of its own policies, it does not, and I repeat, it does not, because I get asked this a lot, remove you from any possibility of prosecution or anything else. Just because a store violated its own policy does not mean you are exempt from the law. So let me give you an example. Let's say you go to Penny's, and Penny's has a policy where they don't stop shoplifters. Now, that's not the case with Penny's, but that's why I'm using them as an example. And the loss prevention officer makes contact with you, arrests you, processes you through the process that Penny's go through, where they seek civil demand and where they seek maybe criminal charges. They go through all that, yet they have a policy where they don't stop shoplifters. That is not going to excuse you from the law. The DA is not going to drop the case because JCPenney violated its own policy. The only time that would be an exception if during the violation of the policy they broke some kind of rule that made your presumed guilt incorrect or something to that effect. But again, a store violating its own policy on shoplifting stops, prosecution, whatever, does not excuse you from being prosecuted using whatever your local laws are. So please don't get confused. Again, if a store has a do not stop policy and they stop you and press criminal charges, you are not going to be able to walk into the courts, tell the judge, well, JCPenney violated their own policy, so I should walk. That's not the case. All right, that just means that they violated their own policy, and you may or may not be able to pursue something civilly through that, although, again, highly unlikely. If you're found guilty of shoplifting and the store violated its own policy on that, it's not likely you're going to win a civil suit either. But I'm not an attorney, so don't quote me on that. You're certainly free to do that. Okay? So what can a loss prevention officer do? Pretty much anything that any one of us can do. When a loss prevention officer makes a shoplifting stop, or apprehension, whatever you want to call it. They're performing what you and I can do as private citizens, and that's called a citizen's arrest. That's what they're doing. It's a citizen's arrest. A police officer cannot arrest you for a misdemeanor that was not committed in his or her presence. Excuse me. Okay? The loss prevention officer is doing what they refer to as a citizen's arrest. Now, this could be true of anybody. I mean, if you see a shoplifter shopping from your local Walmart and you choose, and I'm not advising this, it would be very dangerous, unwise thing to do, but you are perfectly free to stop them and apprehend them and contact police and set them up for prosecution. But again, there's a lot of legal mumbo jumbo that gets in there. This is why loss prevention officers go through a lot of training, and they get rules and guidelines. And some stores are referred to as steps. In other words, in these steps, you have to have, there could be 4, there could be 5, there could be 6, could be 8. But these are all must have. These are things that the loss prevention officer must have seen or done or whatever before he can make a shoplifting stop. I'll give you an example. They must see the individual select the merchandise. They must see the individual conceal the merchandise. They must know that the merchandise is the property of the store. They must never lose visual contact of the subject. In other words, did the subject drop the merchandise? Did the subject pay for the merchandise? If you lose sight of the individual, then again, they should not be making a stop, and if they did, it's referred to as a bad stop. Okay? So there's a lot of things that go into that. And a lot of things vary by state. Some states, concealment alone is a crime. Others, it's not. They must leave the store. And by leaving the store, this again is a source of confusion. They just need to pass the last point of sale. Okay, that does not necessarily mean exiting the doors, or if they have a double set of doors, just the first set. They must pass the last point of sale. So in other words, let's say you're at Target, and you pass the registers and start heading for the exit. At that point in time, they're good to go. You have passed the last point of sale. You're heading for the exit. You don't even have to go out the exit. Although a lot of stores like Target, they have double doors, so once you go through the first set of doors, you're kind of hung out to dry anyway. Okay, so keep these things in mind. Things vary. All right, it's not like I'm trying to give you tips on how to shoplift, because certainly as a retail theft consultant, I discourage shoplifting in all ways, shapes, and forms. I work with retailers as well. I am a loss prevention officer as well, so I certainly know the ins and outs of that type of situation. Again, this is what loss prevention officers can do. They can do whatever you and I can do legally within our local state laws. Okay, I'm saying local state laws because laws vary. What can be done during the citizen's arrest in California may be different than what it can be done in New York. So again, you should be advised of that. Again, though, I'm not encouraging you to shoplift. That would be unwise. I'm giving you this information in case you're caught, or in case you know somebody who's been caught and you think maybe you have an angle to get out of this, or maybe you think something else is wrong. Maybe you feel you have some civil damages. Okay. While we're on this, on what they can and can't do, physical force, yes, the loss prevention officer can tackle you. Yes, he can grab you. He can do whatever he can. He can use what is referred to as reasonable force. In other words, he can't pummel you. Okay? If you're fighting with him, then obviously the officer has the right to defend himself. All right? But they cannot tackle you and start pummeling you. And I know, unfortunately, that's happened in many cases where the loss prevention officers are deciding to play cops and robbers or something, and they start pummeling the suspect. They cannot do that. They can use reasonable force to detain you. All right? They don't need to knock you unconscious or anything else. They need to detain you long enough to get you back into the store to begin the process of the apprehension. And that could be just getting your name, number, and all that other information, so they can do civil demands, so they can set you up for criminal prosecution, call the police. All those things come into play. All right? They cannot pummel you. But yes, they can touch you according to the law. All right? Much depends on the store and what the store permits the the officers to do. And stores tend to change their policies from time to time, or they tend to take a store and use it as a test store, saying, okay, this store can now do this, and it's a test store. So just because you think you know, let's say, Ross's policy on shoplifting, doesn't mean it'll apply to the Ross that you happen to be shoplifting at, because honestly, that store may be doing a test. Maybe Ross has a do not touch policy, and they're testing a touch policy where they're allowed to use reasonable force to detain shoplifters, because they're having a lot of shoplifters that are fighting and leaving or running away. So maybe they change their pursuit policy. So lots of retailers will run test stores. They'll say, okay, this store or these 2 stores or these 10 stores or these 12 stores nationwide or whatever are going to have this new policy they're going to test out, and we're going to see how it works for the next month, 6 months or whatever. So knowing the store's policy doesn't necessarily mean that that's exactly what's going to happen either. And again, I want to emphasize that if a store violates its own shoplifting policy or an apprehension, does not mean that you're going to walk out of court with a not guilty verdict, or that your case is going to be thrown out of court. They are entirely different subjects. You may or may not have a civil action. It's unlikely you would, but you can certainly talk to a lawyer about that. Okay, so what can loss prevention do? To sum it up, they can do pretty much whatever the store allows them to do, and whatever your local state law is allowed to. So can they touch you? The state says yes, the store may say no. Can they pursue you? The state says yes, but the store may say no. All right, can they use handcuffs? The state says yes, the store may say no. All right, can they arrest you while you're inside the store? The state probably says yes, the store may say no. Again, stores, they create policies to prevent civil liability. In other words, they don't want to make what would be considered a legitimate shoplifting stop, only to have it thrown out because of some stupid technicality. So stores may make it a little bit different. As a quick example, before I go here, the state may say that the subject must pass the last point of sale. And again, we've talked about that a moment ago. But the store may say that they must go out the exit. In other words, to ensure that their intent wasn't to look at something really quick, or have them even claim they were going to look at something really quick and then walk back. Once they've gone out the exit, it's kind of a dead issue. Most stores will have them go out the exit. If the exit has 2 sets of doors, like Target often does, and Walmart doesn't so much, but a lot of stores have doubles exit. The first exit, all right, there may be some exit doors, there may be an empty area, and then another set of exit doors. Once you go through the first set of exit doors, that's it. It's all legit, because there's nothing there where you can turn back around or whatever. And whatever you tell them about, oh, I'm sorry, I was going to pay for it, they're usually not going to buy it. And you know what? We'll do that on another video. We'll talk about accidental shoplifting, and how pretty much everyone says, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that. And we'll talk about that on another video. But to make it a lot easier for you, it's not going to work. Don't try it. Okay, so if you have any other questions on what loss prevention can or can't do, you're free to email me at retailtheftexpert@gmail.com. That's retailtheftexpert@gmail.com, or contact me through this YouTube channel. You have a nice day, and this has been your retail theft consultant, trying to advise you so you can stay out of trouble, or if you're in trouble, so you can minimize your damage. That's what we do. As a retail theft consultant, I work both sides. Yes, I help the shoplifter who's been minimize the damage he's done, as well as help retailers reduce their chances of losses. So I certainly have no bias. I certainly will help you as much as I can. So if you have a question, feel free to email me. I am not on the side of the stores or anybody else. I'm on the side of just doing what's right and passing on information. So again, if you have a question, were you caught shoplifting? Do you know somebody who was caught shoplifting? I can help you. Just email me at retailtheftexpert@gmail.com, and you have a good, safe day.